everybody, my name is Alex, and do you know that there are thousands of seas in the world, like the Dead Sea, the Red Sea, or the Black Sea, or everything that includes in its way. But until this, the biggest sea that lies in Europe, no one knows how for sure. The biggest sea, bigger than the Red Sea, the Black Sea, the Dead Sea, everything is sea. And so, let's begin. I will present you the Baltic Sea. First, do you know that the Baltic had a ship in World War II that had sunk in the ocean for thousands of years? In 1940 until 1942, the ship was built and carried oil and even some boats that helped rescue people until when in 1942 a severe disaster struck that when the Germany surrendered in World War II, the Soviet Union takes out the Germany and even lets out with bombs and into the ocean, and that's how the ship sank. And the ship sank. Some scuba divers spent 13 hours to explore the ship, and I mean 13 minutes, not 13 hours. That's take a long time. And so we know that the Baltic had arrived into the ocean. I mean, the ship had arrived in the ocean, and another ship in the 1945 until the World War II end. Germany still didn't surrender, and this case was even more dangerous than other. It did not affect people, but it affects oil and everything like gasoline. It's harmful because if the oil spills in the ocean, then it will pollute the sea and it will spread out, and it will be a disaster for tourists and other people. And so it will be not taken to people. Tourists will not visit the sea for 2 years, I think. And so it's quite a lot more dangerous that if there's no World War II, then it would much be more safer than you thought. I mean, still safe, but not as safe, as some experts believe that it also have ice and icebergs, and it's shivery cold blows. And so, the next thing I want to talk about the Baltic Sea. The next thing I want to talk about you is the Baltic dog that had trapped in the ice and floated around in the sea for decades. I mean, not decades, but everything that includes on its way. Not everything includes its way. I mean the dog and the ice. Now the ice has shrunk the size of a small bedroom, a small classroom. I mean a small classroom, and even until it reached the Baltic Sea. And the ice the dog was standing on is just the size of a tiny picnic table. And so the dog thinks that he is ready to die, but then he noticed a ship that had worked into the Baltic Sea. It's the sea that the Californian gave, and it had been transported into Norway and Sweden and into Denmark and Poland. And so he had been facing a deadly adventure in 1948, 1949. And so he had been rescued by a net and an archaeologist called the Argo. And so a man fetched a boat and rescued the dog 15 miles around the shore. At first, this archaeologist believed that the dog was a seal, but actually it's not a seal. It had 4 legs and it had floppy ears and it had a long nose. That's when they noticed the tail. And so they didn't know how the dog got here, but even worse, the legs of people and other people do not rescue him at the river since he is freezing cold. And so he didn't eat so much until he had breakfast with the other crewmates, crews, and strong enough to eat some sausages. And that's how the story of this Baltic Sea region had gone through. Many experts in Australia, like far away, also write a story with the Baltic Sea. People wanted to take care of the dog, but he didn't. But they were disappointed that they are taken by the ship's crew, and they have been gone through ships in the Titanic. No, I mean not the Titanic, but it's the ship that they rescued him for. And so they want to take him to ship rides, and so he didn't get seasick until that, and he is strong enough until he had reached them before. And so that's the second story. And the first story I want to tell you is all about the region in the Baltic Sea. The region in the Baltic Sea where it is located. The Baltic Sea, it borders Germany, Denmark, Poland, and Estonia, and even Russia borders the Baltic Sea, and Lithuania and other countries like Sweden, Finland, and also Norway, the meltest glaciers and the coldest continent, the country, and floated chunks of ice down into the sea. That's how the Baltic Sea had got it into mining cold. But the tropicals are very warm. That is, in Germany, Denmark, and Poland, and Estonia, and Lithuania, it is very warm, and also Russia is very warm. But in Norway, Sweden, and Finland, the sea is not very warm enough for tourists to get there. As for, you do not want to chill out when you're freezing mining cold. And that's the true story of the Baltic Sea. And the fourth thing I want to tell you is how the Baltic Sea is formed. Millions and millions of years ago, there was a Pangea that separated all the Baltic Seas. At first, it was not the Baltic Sea. It was the other sea, like the Dead Sea. And first, they changed the name of the region, and some Greeks said it was the most dangerous sea in the world. Not in the world, but also in Europe. But still, many people do not believe of this theory, but it's really true. And so if you put the ship that in World War II, and that's the end, And so the nuclear fusion that makes the ship explode into the Baltic Sea can have a disaster on Germany and Denmark and the free countries, and even Sweden, Norway, and even Finland, and Russia, Lithuania, and Estonia. Most likely, Lithuania and Estonia will get very close to the bomb that is very, very, very dangerous. And so it killed thousands and millions of people. Other countries in the World War II also joined them. And so the Germany surrendered. And thus, that's how the ship got into the way, as the ship is included by bombs of the war and everything in the Baltic Sea. And also it also decomposed in the water and broke into two parts, like the Titanic, I think. And I mean the Baltic dog. So the crew named the dog Baltic because they see the dog floats it in the Baltic Sea. That's how the dog got the name, and that's how the regions and everything, like the Pangea and everything got its name. And so it's hard to believe that one day you might find the Baltic into treasure, as the Baltic Sea is not very deep. And so it's not deep as the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, and everything. And I don't know what. We still had this problem today. And so we're trying to figure out how to get the waste into the Titanic ships, and also even the Titanic's, not the Titanic, but the Baltic Sea ships, and the dog that makes the name into the Baltic. Maybe no one knows for sure how the ship had gone through a nuke. Some experts said that even an underground nuke under the water had bombed in a submarine, and thus the two were hitched and go down. And that's why how the crack of the hull began to fill the water, and thus that's how the Baltic sinks. And not other ships are very disastrously. Not disastrously, but everything in the world, including the ships. No ship is can sink. Thousands of ships sink already, and so many people in the ships that in the past have been more torn their lives. More than thousands of people died in the past, more than the future and the present today. And so that's how the Baltic Sea and the ship and the dog and everything had got its way and its name. And so it's not the way, or maybe not, or not the ship, but a boat that had sink, and only a few people. Maybe no one knows how for sure the ship had sink, but it's going to face a deadly adventure now. And so you know that the ship had sank in the water, and also it had taken all over the docks, the seas, and also everything. Yesterday I have found out the dog had floated only 50 miles away from land. That's not quite far away, but it's quite dangerous that the dog is going to face a deadly adventure. So that's how the Titanic the ship's end into the water and sink. And also the dog is playing a famous cultural role in Europe. And so newspapers and books have pictures of the dog, Baltic seas, and even the ships that cross the Baltic Sea. Or maybe no one knows for sure how the ship had sunk, but maybe it's the right answer because the ship had sunk because of a nuke. Some said that it had nukes and oil fusion in the ships already, carrying supplies to the other countries, but it's going to face a deadly adventure. And so no one knows how. And no one knows why the ship sank so long that it starts to decompose more than the other ships. And that's how the story ends of the Baltic Sea. Goodbye, everybody. See you next time.